Khartoum, Sudan. In a landmark announcement today, Sudan's military leader General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan declared that the army has regained full control of the capital, Khartoum, from the rival Rapid Support Forces, RSF. This declaration marks a pivotal turning point in a conflict that has raged for nearly 2 years, reshaping the power dynamics in one of Africa's most critical urban centers. Strategic gains and on-site developments. Al-Burhan landed at Khartoum International Airport, a facility that had been under RSF control for much of the conflict, and personally inspected frontline troops during a brief stopover. The airport's recapture is significant as it serves not only as a critical transport hub, but also as a gateway for humanitarian aid into the beleaguered city. Following his visit to the airport, General al-Burhan proceeded to the ruins of the Republican Palace, a historic structure that once housed Sudan's pre-war government. It was from this emblematic site that he made his sweeping declaration: "Khartoum is free, as it should be." The restoration of control over both the international airport and the Republican Palace is seen by military strategists as a decisive blow against the RSF, whose presence in the capital had been a source of prolonged instability and uncertainty. Military officials report that these key locations were secured after coordinated ground and air operations, and the army has since been engaged in consolidating its position across central Khartoum. The road to victory. Background and timeline. The struggle for Khartoum has been one of the focal points of the ongoing conflict, which erupted in April 2023 between the Sudanese Armed Forces, SAF, led by al-Burhan, and the RSF commanded by General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, commonly known as Hemedti. Initially, RSF fighters had seized large parts of the city, including strategic government buildings and the presidential palace, forcing the SAF to retreat to Port Sudan for several months. Since early 2024, however, the tide has begun to turn. A series of sustained military offensives, supported by artillery and airstrikes, allowed the SAF to gradually push RSF forces out of key urban centers. The recapture of the Republican Palace earlier this week was widely reported as a symbolic victory for the SAF, restoring a seat of government and boosting the morale of both troops and civilians. Implications for the conflict and future prospects. The announcement of full control over Khartoum has broad implications for the overall conflict. Military analysts note that while RSF fighters are still believed to hold territory in western regions such as Darfur and parts of North Kordofan, the loss of strategic urban strongholds in the capital weakens their bargaining position significantly. Experts predict that the momentum now lies with the SAF, which is expected to intensify its operations to recapture remaining RSF-held areas in and around Khartoum. However, caution is urged by humanitarian organizations, which have long warned that the protracted conflict has already displaced millions and pushed some areas to the brink of famine. The recapture of Khartoum is a major milestone, but it does not mean that the conflict is over, said a regional analyst. There are still pockets of RSF resistance and significant humanitarian challenges that remain unaddressed. abcnews.go.com. Humanitarian impact and international reactions. Over the course of the conflict, the fighting in Khartoum and beyond has led to widespread displacement and a severe humanitarian crisis. More than 14 million people have been forced to leave their homes, and aid organizations have struggled to provide essential services amid ongoing insecurity. With improved control over the capital, there is cautious optimism that humanitarian access could soon be restored, allowing relief efforts to reach those in desperate need. International observers have welcomed the recent military gains as a step towards restoring order, though they emphasize the need for a long-term political solution. While military victories in Khartoum are encouraging, the international community must now focus on reconciliation and rebuilding, commented a spokesperson from a global humanitarian agency. France24.com. Historical significance and national sentiment. The Republican Palace, where General al-Burhan made his statement, holds deep historical and cultural significance for Sudan. Once the epicenter of government during the pre-war era, the palace is a powerful symbol of national unity and sovereignty. Its recapture has been celebrated by many Khartoum residents, who see it as a return to stability after years of uncertainty. Local residents have taken to the streets in expressions of cautious optimism. "Today, when I saw our flag flying at the palace, it felt like a new beginning for Khartoum," said one local shopkeeper. Such sentiments underscore the widespread desire for a return to normalcy, even as the road ahead remains fraught with challenges. Next steps and ongoing military operations. In the wake of today's announcement, military authorities have indicated that operations will continue in order to completely neutralize RSF resistance within urban areas. The SAF is reportedly planning further advances in peripheral neighborhoods and key infrastructure zones, aiming to establish a secure environment that can support both governance and humanitarian recovery. General al-Burhan's declaration also signals potential shifts in international support. With the capital firmly in the hands of the SAF, diplomatic channels may soon open for negotiations that could pave the way for a ceasefire and eventual peace talks. Nonetheless, analysts caution that any political settlement will have to address deep-seated grievances and ensure accountability for past abuses. Conclusion: General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan's declaration that Khartoum is free marks a historic moment in Sudan's turbulent recent history. The recapture of the international airport and the Republican Palace not only serves as a significant military victory but also as a beacon of hope for a population yearning for stability and peace. While challenges remain, particularly in humanitarian and political realms, the advances in Khartoum could well be the turning point needed to steer the country towards a more secure and prosperous future. Stay tuned for further updates as this developing story unfolds on the ground and in diplomatic arenas. Sources: Reuters, ABC News, Al Arabiya, and additional reports from international news agencies.